Good afternoon, what is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is September the 21st, Thursday. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And box to continue unboxing. Now what I've got in here is a thick sheet of fanzines. So I'm going to pull out the next one, which is in this little package here. See if I can find it. Those. I've got a number on this one. Yes, it does have a number on this one. So I'll slip those back in there. Sorry for the delay. What I'm going to look at is Tales from the Smoking Wyrm, issue 1. Now I've had a look at this, which is the monograph volume 1 number 1, but this is the first issue of the fanzine. Now this is for use for Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics, both published by Goodman Games. Dungeon Crawl Classics is a traditional kind of Dungeons and Dragons style game, but more inspired by the content from a classic Appendix N and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and like a big dollop of swords and sorcery. And Mutant Crawl Classics is the iteration, or can be seen as an iteration of Dungeon Crawl Classics, but heavily inspired by Gamma World. So we open up, we have editorial inside. We have a nice nod to the street scene by Dave Trampier, I believe, in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I think it's a classic scene where you've got essentially basically these buildings, and there's a man on horseback riding away from a danger. Now there's nobody on horseback here, but you've got that street scene, which is actually inspired by a street on the island of Rhodes. As pointed out by James Wallace recently, as I speak. So interesting cover. Then we get on to editorial and the contents page. And we have, first off, the Paladin. This is presenting the Paladin for Dungeon Crawl Classics, a character not present because you really keep it down to, in Dungeon Crawl Classics, you've got warrior, wizard, cleric, thief, and then elf, dwarf, and halfling. But there's always an interest in creating new classes, seeing what can be done, and so the Paladin, a classic advanced Dungeons and Dragons character class. So how a Paladin becomes a Paladin, investiture, and how that manifests, and the trials that he might have to undertake, and things he can do, like things like deity, because Paladin is a religious warrior. So there's that options in there. It's not a full kind of class. I think it's something you can put on extra to, basically put on top of your warrior or something like that. And then Cthulhu. So this is this presenting Cthulhu in terms of Dungeon Crawl Classics? Yes, and of course it is Cthulhu as a patron. Now there's always been kind of a hint of the mythos in Dungeons and Dragons, but not particularly heavily. You might have a hint of, say, the Warlock patron being in 5th edition, being sort of like one of the old ones, but not specifically Cthulhu. So here we have what happens when you invoke Cthulhu as a patron. What happens when that roll goes wrong and you acquire taint from him, and what happens when you do spellburn. Spellburn is when you essentially use your stats in order to power your spells to ensure you cast them. And then we have a list of patron spells for Cthulhu: Summons of the Deep, Breath of the Deep, Forms of the Deep, and some suggested reading from Appendix N. All very good stuff. And you have in true Dungeon Crawl Classic style, the spells, description, and then their full effects, because every spell in Dungeon Crawl Classic is a page or so long, because you're not only just rolling to see whether you succeed, but to how well you succeed and what results you get. It varies depending upon how well you roll. And then same again for Breath of the Deep. And Form of the Deep. So you can certainly have a very eldritch cleric if you so desire. And then we have Culpepper's Herbal, which is a guide to herbs and their use in Dungeon Crawl Classics. So we look at Adder's False Tongue, Aconite or Yellow Wolf's Bane. Before we get onto the Silver Ball, which is a general sort of like artifact which the adventurers can run afoul of, and basically get sucked into, and have a generally positive or negative effect upon the player character. There's quite a lot in that, you know. So basically, we've got tables here for memory loss or memory gain, and rejection. You know, ejection events. What happens when you are ejected from it? So you gain a memory, or you suffer physical changes. Gain a surprising item. And then we move on to, we've got a monster, the telepathic rat. Interesting, so like I actually just sort of like dealing with the scenario with the cranium rats from Dungeons and Dragons Adventure number 1, where you've got an inn which is taken over by a cranium rat. So we have, so it's synchronicity, as it were, coincidence. You just have, something on telepathic rats. Rites and Rituals Part 1. And this is talking about using spells as more than just off-the-cuff castings during an adventure. You know, can they be used as something more? So, talking about how rites and rituals work, supported by some examples, such as the rites of Schlageruth, or Schlageruth, and then Dark Phylactery. More, and then we've got because it's de rigueur, you have its own little cartoon strip. I don't mind these. I mean, you know, generally, as long as they don't come to kind of dominate an issue or something like that, there is always interesting, to see what the editors and the illustrators' sort of vision are. You know, what do you get for? What can I say about gaming and in the cartoons? And sometimes they've been used to sort of like to teach games or inform them or comment upon them. Then we have a discussion of what is the Smoking Wyrm, how did it come about, what its origins, and we are really go way back all the way to Dungeons and Dragons and go a bit forward. So this is quite lengthy actually. It's more than a few pages. So and there's quite a bit of a detailed history of the fanzine, and this is even in the first issue. And then got some adverts for Stenard, and some notes for Skull and Crossbones Classic. So taking Dungeon Crawl Classics format onto the high seas in the age of piracy. That looks interesting. Wormwords, but a crossword, yeah, okay. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of those personally. It's kind of like it's a puzzle. I can go get those anywhere. What are you offering me that is interesting? But we have more here. We have advert for the publisher, and some more adverts for other publishers. Before we come to the menu on the back, that's the actual contents page. So yeah. Nice little first issue, lots of good things in there. Some I would, If you ask me if I was to take them or leave them, definitely leave them. But plenty that I would also take as well. So that is Tales from the Smoking Wyrm, issue number 1. So let's see who that is. Let's have a look. Just got to see the publisher. But call it Smoking Wyrm, as it were. Blind Visionary Publications. This is the second edition. So yeah. So I want to thank Blind Visionary Publications for sending me a copy. And I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box containing a book or game, or in this case a fanzine, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.